Well, good morning, everyone. This is Natasha Telger with Illinois WorkNet and located in Springfield, Illinois. And I just wanted to say thank you for joining our Summer Youth Employment Program webinar today. For those that are new to our webinars, we do have two audio options. You can use your computer speakers or your headphones, and you can answer or ask questions at any time using the chat pod, which is located right under the video. Or you can use the conference call line. Now, if you call into the conference call line, your phone is muted, and then that will help knock out any background noise that we may have, so it's easier for everyone to hear. But at the end of the webinar, then you will be able to ask questions. We will open up the call line so that anyone can ask a question at that time. Now, please keep in mind that you can ask questions anytime using the chat pod. Excuse me. We do have some materials that we're going to be using today, and those were sent out via an email with a download link. If you have not had an opportunity to do so, you can download those materials from our file share pod that's located in the center, middle center, lower part of your screen. And you just simply click on the file name and download that file to save it to your computer. We do ask that you complete the polling questions on the right-hand side of your screen, so we have a general idea of when your summer youth employment programs are going to begin and when they're ending, and then also so we can get an idea of the mix of people. Do you have people that participated last year and they are returning, or do you have a whole new group of people that are going to be in your summer youth employment program? Okay. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me just fine. So if you could either type something in the chat pod to let me know that you can hear me, or at the bottom of your computer screen on the lower left-hand side, you'll see a little person with his hand raised. If you want to click on that person just to let me know, then that would be great. Okay, well, great. Great. Thank you. Alrighty. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next screen here. Today we will be using a, we'll be following the format of using our, let me go ahead. Oops, I had this one. Let me go ahead and get this back to the beginning. We will be using our PowerPoint, but we'll also be using a process flow. And this is part of the downloads that you have. We have the process flow because sometimes it just helps to see a map or a picture of what the process is. And this is all in the Workforce Professionals Pathway 2, written out in instruction format and with the different steps and sentences. So what we have is we'll start out with just simply getting access to the Workforce Professionals Pathway, because you'll see that's where a lot of the important tools are available in the Workforce Professionals Pathway. So the first part you'll notice is yellow, and the yellow indicates the Workforce Professionals side of this whole process. As we move further down, then you'll see we have a blue section, and that's where the participants for your Summer Youth Employment Program are actually completing the activities, pre- and post-assessment, and so forth. So we do have our PowerPoint that matches up with the process flow. So go ahead and get started with the PowerPoint. Today we'll be talking about having access to the Workforce Pathway. We'll take a look at the activities and the assessments for the new and returning youth. We'll talk about the pre- and post-assessments and their scores, and then we'll take a look at a demo of the activities and some enhancements that we've made since last year. To start out with, it's really important that all the workforce professionals that are going to be working with the youth have workforce professionals accounts. This is for multiple reasons. We have access to different tools and resources in the workforce pathway, but it also provides a means of communication to those individuals. So we start out by having them include their organization into our site management database. It's all you have to do. We have simple instructions where you just go click on a link and enter your information, and that will go into our site management database after it's been reviewed and approved. Once it's approved, then we will have the workforce professionals go into the workforce professionals pathway and set up their account. Once they have their account set up, then they can complete the online course that we have. It's called the Certified Illinois WorkNet Advisor course, and this is available to all of our partners, but the anyone who's going to be working with the youth participants really needs to complete this course. It will be updated once we release the new activities, but you can still go ahead and start taking it now because the basic components and everything are going to be the same, and that information it's good to know in advance so you can be prepared to answer any questions that your participants might have. On the Workforce Professionals pathway as well, we have resources, we have policy information, guidance, and we also have a forum. Now the forum is used for asking questions. You can also use it to share information as well. Maybe what's working for you, what didn't work so well for you. And so we really encourage you to use the forum to share your information. We also know that from last year, we did have some individuals that required special accommodations. So within the Workforce Professionals pathway, we have some additional information on special accommodations. For those that are new to Illinois WorkNet and they need to set up their Illinois WorkNet account, you can just tell them to simply go to Illinois WorkNet, click on the Workforce Professionals pathway, look for the Summer Youth Employment Program icon, and there will be a link right next to it. So they can click on that link, and it provides them with instructions whether they need to set up their organization and site management, or they need to set up their Workforce Professionals account, or maybe they already have the Workforce Professionals account, and it just directs them to that information. Okay. Now, again, specifically for those who are rather new to Illinois WorkNet and the Workforce Professionals pathway, this is meant for workforce professionals only. We do have on the resources page, we have a page for Summer Youth Employment Program. It'll go through all the background information on different ways, options that you can use for providing the training, whether it's instructor-led or self-guided approach. It goes through the different activities, getting set up for those activities, and the post-assessment. Now, one of the key things I really want to mention is we want to make sure that we are having only workforce professionals set up their accounts on the Workforce Professionals pathway. The participants will set up an individual's account because, especially for the post-assessment area, we do have the pre- and post-assessments located on Illinois WorkNet, and we have copies without answers and with answers. So we don't want those to get into the wrong hands. As I mentioned before, we have policy information that's available. We have a link to the policy. For today, I just want to point out that all your participants will need to be registered within Illinois WorkNet because that's where they're going to get their pre-assessment and their post-assessment and their work readiness activities. So those will all need to be completed within Illinois WorkNet. As I mentioned before, we do have some participants that have special needs. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that the portal is set up to support varying types of assistive technology. For example, if a person has a visual impairment, we have the Zoom text. The portal will support working with a Zoom text or JAWS. We also have within Illinois WorkNet something that's called Browse Aloud. So if you have a person that they maybe have English as a second language, or for whatever reason, they can use Browse Aloud, and Browse Aloud will actually go through and read the text to the person. And they can, it's pretty neat because they can select their own voice, the voice that they want to use, the speed at which it's read to them, and even the different types of accents. Now, it is the responsibility of the local workforce investment areas to provide any other type of special accommodations. Maybe it might, for example, it might be an instructor-led one-on-one approach, maybe for a person that might have some difficulty. So you might just have to, maybe either read the text or walk with them and help them answer any of those questions. The activities do align with the policy and the DOL work readiness goals. And last year we sent the activities and the assessments to DOL and they approved them. So we did the same thing this year and they were really excited about the returning youth activities. They thought it was really nice to have a separate set of activities for those youth that are returning. I do want to point out that DOL does use Illinois workNet as a national example, so we're happy about that. And a lot of that is with your feedback and your suggestions and best practices that we're able to incorporate that into these activities as well and the information. Now this document that aligns the activities to the policy and to the work readiness goals is available on the Workforce Professionals Pathway as well. Again, pointed out that we do have a forum that's available on the Workforce Pathway, and right now this specifically says policy questions should be asked via the forum, and that is true. But if you have other questions, you can also ask them through the forum as well. Or, for example, if you're use an instructor-led approach, you can ask or provide suggestions as to what worked best for you during that, using that instructor-led approach. Now, we do want to point out that this year, please save yourself some time, and you don't need to duplicate any efforts. Within Illinois workNet, if a person has their Illinois workNet account set up and they include their Social Security number, what it will do is match the IWDS account, and whenever you add them to a group, it will make a link with those two accounts. So once that link is made, then we can pass information from Illinois workNet to IWDS. So you don't have to re-enter information. Now, there's a couple things to do. In order to do so, you need to make sure that your participant is added to IWDS before they are added to a group. If that's just not possible, that's okay. What you can do is once the person is added to IWDS, then you can remove the person from the group and add them back in, and it'll make that link if you choose to do that. The other important piece of that is they need to include their Social Security number within their account. So their Social Security number is in their IWDS account, and the way we make that positive match is to have their Social Security number in their Illinois workNet account. That way we can make sure we're matching up the right person with the right account in IWDS. We do have two types, since this is our second year, we have two types of participants. We have new participants, and the new participants are those individuals that did not participate in the Summer Youth Employment Program last year. They may or may not already be in IWDS. So the process for those that participated last year is basically the same. They set up their Illinois workNet account, they complete their pre-assessment, they take their, do the work readiness activities, and towards the end of their work experience, then they'll complete their post-assessment. Now, with the returning participant, now the definition for returning participant are those that participated in last year's Summer Youth Employment Program. So what's nice is that they're already in IWDS, so that's great. So you can make that link whenever you're adding them to their to your customer group. And we'll talk about customer groups in just a moment. So they will be able to access their existing Illinois workNet account once they're added. Now you may think, oh, it was last year, there's no way they're going to remember their username and password from last year. So whenever you add them to a group, an email will be sent to them if an email is available, and it will provide them with a link to let them know that they've been added to a group, and the link will allow them to reset their password. Now, if you have a person that doesn't have their information in an email into their Illinois WorkNet account, then once you add them to the group, you will be able to see the 3 pieces of information that they'll need in order to reset their own password. You'll see their username, their date of birth, and the answer to their secret question. So if that's your other option. So you can let them know if they need to reset their password, you can provide those 3 pieces of information to them to have them reset their password. So they get into Illinois WorkNet, and they'll complete the pre-assessment and the pre-survey. Now the pre-survey is no big deal. Again, it's just 5 questions that it actually gathers information, gets the feedback from their first year experience or previous year experience. So once they complete the pre-assessment, then they will be given access to the activities that they did last year and their assessment results. And they'll also be given access to the work readiness activities for returning participants. So we'll have the original set of activities, but then what the returning the returning participants are going to focus on the activities for returning participants. So their pre-assessment and their post-assessment is going to be based on the activities, only the activities for returning participants. And then once they complete their pre-assessment, then they will also have direct access to their post-assessment. So that's a little bit different than last year. That's the same case for each of these. So we'll address that in just a few moments, but we want to make sure, again, that their post-assessment is completed towards the end of their work experience. So for those that are relatively new or not familiar with customer groups, or you just need a reminder of what is she talking about when she talks about customer groups. Our customer groups are just a way that we organize our participants. For an area, you can have, for your area, you may choose to have a group for just new participants. You may choose to have a group just for returning participants, or you may combine them. You could have one group for your entire area, or you could have it by location. It's really up to you. It's a way to organize your participants and give workforce professionals access to those customer groups so that they can see their assessment scores, activity status, and their password recovery information. So the coordinator will set up the groups. Once the groups are set up, the coordinator will add workforce professionals, so more than likely that's you. So once you're added to a group, then you'll be notified via an email that you've been added to the group, and then you can start adding your participants to the group. So but I want to just stress again that if at all possible, if you can go ahead and have your participants in IWDS ahead of time, then it'll just save you time in the end, because you can just it'll make that connection directly linked to their IWDS account. Now when we set up groups, you can have them set up with one workforce professional to a number of participants or customers, or you can have multiple workforce professionals to a group of customers. Now, for each of these workforce professionals, they will have access to the customer pre-assessment and post-assessment information, activity status. They will be able to print out some group reports or individual reports, and they will also be able to see the password recovery information. So whenever we have our, we have our group set up, we have our customers ready to, we know who's going to go into our groups, we need to know about the overall process, what's going to take place with the activities. So on the Workforce Professionals Pathway, it does provide you with information on the activities and guidance and requirements. Um, the requirement is they do take a pre-assessment. We don't want any of the participants to get all stressed out. It's just simply a knowledge check. We want to see where they are, what do they already know with regards to this information. Now, this information, once they complete the pre-assessment, they only complete it one time, and once they complete that pre-assessment, the score will go directly into their account. So what that means for you as a workforce professional, one of the things that we've added this year is the ability to print out a report so you can see the distribution or the scores on how well or which ones the participants which questions they did well on and which questions they did not do so well on. So, for example, if they print out the report after they took the pre-assessment, I could see that they really didn't know the information for questions 3, 5, and 9. I just would want to make sure that I, spend a little time on that and make sure they understand that information. Now, with the activities for the new participants are the same ones that we used last year. There's a little bit difference, though, than we've had some really good feedback on so far, is that they're written at the 3rd grade reading level. It's the same basic information, less text, written at the 3rd grade level. Based on the feedback that we received from the youth last year in a post survey, we included a review at the end of each activity, so they can review those activities to help them prepare for their post-assessment. The activities are online this year, which by that I mean they will be able to save their responses, their notes, the answers to the review questions. They will be able to save those online in their account. So that's why you have to go green, because we don't need to print all those papers out. We do understand that in some cases you do need a printer-friendly copy, a printer-friendly format. So you can simply print the web pages, and that will give you a printer-friendly format that you could use with your participants as well. We do have the translator tool, so if you have some individuals that have English as a second language, or maybe we have for a variety of languages, but the most common request that we get is for Spanish. So they can use the translator tool and translate the text available on that page and use that as a printer-friendly format as well. The other change is that the participants will self-identify when they complete an activity. And what that will do is allow you as a workforce professional to be able to see where your students are in their with completing their activities. So if you use the self-guided approach, you don't have people coming to your same location, then what you can do is log into your groups. You'll be able to see the activity status, and let's say Natasha, she has completed the first 3 activities, but she still has a few more. Maybe I want to check in with her and say, I noticed that you didn't do these 2 activities, and did you need help or so forth. Then, towards the end of the work experience, they will take the post-assessment. The post-assessment can be taken up to 3 times. They're not required to take it to 3 times, but they can only take it 3 times, no more than 3 times. So it's really important that they understand that ahead of time. We don't just want them randomly taking the post-assessment, because remember, it will be made available immediately, and we want to make sure that, one thing, they're not taking the post-assessment until they're told to do so, and before they do the post-assessment, we want to make sure they review the information, so they will do as good as possible on that post-assessment. And if they don't do as well, if they don't do better on their post-assessment than their pre-assessment, then we want to make sure they review it, because they should know they only get 3 chances to take the post-assessment. The scores and the dates are saved automatically into their account, so you can also run a report on once everyone has completed their post-assessment as well. And in order for them to attain the Illinois Work Readiness Goal, then they must score higher on their post-assessment than on the pre-assessment. Now, they can take the post-assessment 3 times. what it will choose, what it will take is the highest post-assessment. So if they score the high, I don't know, 93 on the first one, they score 90 the second time they take it, it will select the 93. The only exception is if they score 100% on their pre-assessment at first, then they will need to score 100% on their post-assessment. Some other things to think about whenever you're preparing for your training is what type of participants do I have? Do I have primarily new participants? Do I have primarily returning participants? Do I have anyone with special needs? Because that's going to say, well, okay, and let me take a look at, do I have a computer lab, or do I need to use a self-guided approach? Am I going to use the in-person approach with a facilitator that actually goes through each of these activities? Am I going to do it all in one day? Am I going to do it over a series of 5 days? What am I going to do? Now, in some cases, since we have the new and returning participants, you might need a hybrid of those two approaches. Maybe you have an in-person group, but within that in-person group, you use the self-guided approach. So we have new participants and returning participants in the same room, but maybe you have them put a sticky note or a cup or some other kind of indicator up on their computer monitor to let me know as a facilitator that they need some assistance. So, and if you have, once you do something like that, if you have any suggestions of what's worked good for you, then you can please share that in your forum. Again, in preparation, enter everyone into IWDS and set up the groups, add workforce professionals to the group, add summer youth participants to the group. If they already have an Illinois WorkNet account, you can go ahead and add them. Or as soon as they set up their Illinois WorkNet account, you can add them to your customer group. Again, preparing the instructions and equipment, making sure that they all meet the Illinois WorkNet system requirements. Then we want to make sure that you communicate with the participants, whether some places use an in-person orientation, others use phone call or email. So it's really up to what works best for your area. Now, as a youth, I'm going to either I go to the Illinois WorkNet homepage, and I either click on individuals, or we also have added the Summer Youth Employment icon to the splash page for Illinois WorkNet. So I can either click on individuals or go directly to that page. Once I click on the link, the Summer Youth Employment icon, I'm taken to a page where I'm either directed to either log into my account if I already have an account and if I'm a returning user or returning SYEP participant. Otherwise, I go through my first activity, and it talks about setting up an email address. If your area, your participants are not allowed to set up an email address, okay, that's fine. But we do want to make sure that they know that when they set up their email account, that it's important to have a professional email account. So they'll walk through that activity, and then they'll have the option to either update their Illinois WorkNet account with their professional email account, or set up an Illinois WorkNet account for the first time. Once they they set up their account and they go into the activities for the very first time, then they will see the pre-assessment. Now, the pre-assessment is simply a multiple choice, 22 questions for the new participants, 25 questions for the returning participants, and they only complete this one time. Now, once the pre-assessment is completed, then you can print out a group report so you can see how your group did. Maybe in some cases, maybe they did really well on these 3 questions and not so well on these other 3 questions. So as an instructor, it's nice to know that ahead of time so you kind of know where they are with the previous knowledge they have on this material. We do have the pre- and post-assessment answers available in the Workforce Professionals pathway. We also have a printer-friendly version that can be printed out and used for a person maybe that needs special accommodations. Maybe you just go through with an instructor and they work through those questions with them. It might be a situation where you have to go back in and fill it in. But they do need to be completed online. This is only an aid to help a person that needs to have that one-on-one assistance. So once they complete their pre-assessment, they will be able to see their activities. Now their activities will be available to them all the time. So it is important that they remember their username and password. We do have a password recovery system, but we do have a sheet that they can fill out to include their username and password, or we have business card-size handouts that they can use to put their username and password on it so that they don't forget that information. Again, we have multiple ways for them to recover their password as well. Something that's a little bit new this year is you'll notice that we're using more icons to give it that visual use appeal, and also as visual cues, and reducing the amount of text on the page so it's easier to scan the page to find the information that you're looking for. So we do have the basic activities listed here. We have when an activity is complete, the icon turns green. If it's yellow, it's not complete. But we also, we don't want to make an assumption that they understand that green means good, you're complete, you're finished with that. So we do include the word that says either complete or not complete. We only have two status levels, complete, not complete. They can either click on the icon or click on the information bubble and find out more information before they go into that activity. Now, let's say I have a group of participants. We've completed our pre-assessment and our activities, and maybe it's been a couple weeks, and we're meeting again. So I want to, before I go through and meet with this group again, I want to take at their pre-assessment scores, where they are with their activities. And this says monitor, but I think a more appropriate word would be tracking tools in your customer groups, because I can look at my customer groups, see their pre- and post-assessment scores, and the date complete, their status. But I can also print out individual and group reports. Now, also, it's good to have this customer group available whenever you're meeting with your group, because inevitably somebody has lost their card, they forgot their username, they never had an email address, so they will need to have their the workforce professional or the instructor recover their password. So the instructor can simply go into the customer group and they can see their username, date of birth, and secret question, provide that information to the participant, and then the participant can reset their password. Before they take their post-assessment, we want to make sure that they review the activities as a refresher. Each of the activities has a section of review questions. And again, as they go through those activities, they can just save the answers right there in those on that form. So as they go through the review activities, or the review section, it has a question there, and they'll have their answer. And so refresh, bring all that knowledge back into the part of the brain that they can easily remember, and then complete the post-assessment. Now again, I want to stress that the post-assessment will be available immediately with their activities. But it's very important that they understand that they are not to take the post-assessment until they're told to do so, especially since they only get 3 opportunities to take it. We don't want them just randomly going in there and taking it for the fun of it, I guess. So what we do have is a great big stop sign that says, do not start this until you're told to do so, or your results may be disqualified. So in addition to the stop sign, we do ask that you make sure you stress to them they are not to take the post-assessment until they're told to do so. Very important. And again, we want to point out to them that they need to score higher on their post-assessment than they did on their pre-assessment, which should be very easy for them to do as they go through the activities and review the questions at the end of each activity. If they do that and they complete the review, then they should be able to score higher on their post-assessment than their pre-assessment. Now, in addition to that, another incentive for them is we want you to do as well as possible, and for one of those reasons is that we're going to have a certificate of completion at the end of your, after you complete the activities. So with that certificate of completion, we have your name, the date that you completed it, the program that you completed it, the activity modules that you completed. But if you notice, I have an arrow right here pointing. We also have included the post-assessment score. So if you could take a moment and think about this and go ahead and enter your thoughts, your comments in the chat pod. We will have some polling questions at the end to gather some of your feedback as well. But the idea with this certificate of completion is that we can give them something that could give them a competitive edge. Is that to show something that they can be proud of, something they can show a potential employer that they have completed these different activities and hopefully give them a little bit of a competitive edge in a tough job market. So, were there any thoughts on is this something that you could see as a value? What are your thoughts? Because today we're talking about the summer youth, but in the future, as with Illinois WorkNet, we're always adding new enhancements. So we have our Summer Youth and Employment Program activities now, but we can move forward and continue to add more activities. So maybe today it's the summer youth, but tomorrow it's, I don't know, what other type of, maybe it's, something on money management or I don't know, whatever. But it's just paving the path that we can use that in the future for another type of certificate of completion. Okay. Or one of the things, that's a good point, one of the things that is good about, one of the things that we're happy about with using the certificate of completion with Illinois WorkNet is in some places, sometimes that you'll have a certificate of completion, but you really don't know what it means. One of the things that with Illinois WorkNet is it's not locked down, so an employer or anyone can actually go in. The person's information is secure, but the general activities are available. Anybody can go in and take a look at the activities and the content that's within Illinois WorkNet so that they understand what information was covered. Okay. So, and we'll give you an opportunity to provide more information as well, or more comments as well. Okay, so once they complete their post-assessment and they've printed out their certificate, because they're all going to do better on their post-assessment than their pre-assessment, right? Then, again, you can automatically pass that information to IWDS. We'll do that for you. You don't have to do anything. If you were in a situation where either the person didn't have their social number in their account or you didn't have, they weren't in IWDS, to make that connection between the WorkNet account and the IWDS account, all you have to do is remove them from the group and add them back into the group, and it will make that connection to their account. We understand that in some places that that's just not going to work for them. So what they can do is, again, all that information is contained within your customer group, and you can print out a report and you can manually update IWDS. It's up to you. Okay, so I'm going to show you a demonstration in just a minute, but the Illinois WorkNet, the Summer Youth Employment Program activities are not released as of today. They will be released next week. So in the meantime, what you can do is you can have, or take a look and think about, again, what kind of participants are you going to have, new, returning, anyone with special needs? What approach do you think would be best for your area and group? Self-guided, maybe a hybrid of the two of them. It's an opportunity to go ahead and add in your participants into IWDS before they're added to their group. and making sure all the equipment and everything is set up and can meet the Illinois workNet system requirements. Now, as I mentioned before, this says the release date is the week of May 17th, 2010. So it'll be released during the week next week, and I will send out a notice to everyone to let everyone know when that is available. So once that is available, then you'll be able to set up groups and add workforce professionals to the groups. You'll be able to add participants, and you'll also be able to get all those instructions and everything ready for your training as well. So what I'm going to do is, okay, it looks like, Judy lost sound, so let me give her the phone number real quick. Pardon me. Sorry about this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my computer screen. So in just a moment, you will see a great big gray square, and that's okay because I'm going to show my computer screen. Desktop, and we're going to take a look at the Workforce Professionals pathway first. So I'm logged into my Workforce Professionals account, and it might look a little bit different than yours just because I have access to some more tools as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the customer groups. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my customer groups for Summer Youth Employment Program. And if I want to add a customer group, let's see here, I have my groups. Okay, so I can add my customer group. I can also add new customers. So whenever we add new customers, we just simply click on the link to add new customers, and I can enter my name. I'm going to go ahead and enter Telger, and I get a listing of people. Now you'll see that it has Social Security number is missing, so that gives me a big red flag that whenever I'm adding my person to the group, and although they might be into IWDS, they do not have their social number in their Illinois WorkNet account, so that's my red flag to let me know that it's not going to be able to make that connection to IWDS. So I'm going to go ahead and add a person to my group anyway, and once they're added, I can go through and continue to sort through those groups, and if I can refresh my page, but in the meantime, you'll see that I have a couple people already added. I see the username and all that, the information for password recovery, as well as my pre-assessment scores, and this says that my post-assessment score has not been taken, or my post-assessment hasn't been taken yet. So that's just real simply adding a person to a customer group. Now, if I go over to my resources page, this is my Summer Youth Employment Program page. Right now, I have the accordions open just so that it's easy for me to go through and show you this information. Will be the accordion that just opens and closes the information on the page. We'll be closing those so that it condenses the information so it's easy for you to scan and find the information that you're looking for. So what we have is we have it broken into three basic components. The first one is understanding the background information. So we have a link to the policy, to guidelines, to additional resources. We'll have a link to the archived webinar here. We have instructions for setting up your customer group. Based on feedback from a webinar yesterday, I went ahead and added a link here so you can get a list of your Illinois WorkNet coordinators. If you are not sure who your coordinator is, you can look there. We also have the next step is to complete the work readiness activity. So you might use the instructor-led approach, the self-guided approach. We have it broken into instructor-led approach for new participants, instructor-led approach for returning participants. And we literally have a checklist here. So we understand that everybody's busy. You have a million things on your mind. So we just added a few bullets here. You can print it off and literally check it off as you're going through and setting up your training. One of the things based on feedback from last year is that it is helpful to have your SYEP customer group open either on another computer or in another internet browser window, so that whenever you're there with your group, you can, if someone's just setting up their account, you can just plop them into their customer group as soon as they're finished setting up their account. You'll be able to see their pre-assessment results and be able to print out that report. Also, if you, maybe it's later on down the road and you have a person that has forgotten their username and password, then you'll be able to recover their password or provide them with the information to be able to recover their password. So as we go through, we have recommended times in order to make sure that the activities are completed within a 2-hour time period. It's not required that you complete the activities within a 2-hour time period. In some cases, they only have the participants for a given amount of time on one day. In other cases, situations, they'll have the participants come in maybe on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we're going to meet for a certain amount of time. So you can either choose to use the activities as an introductory activity, or you can go even further in depth with the activities. That flexibility is available, and your approach just depends on how you are running your program in your workforce area. So we have instructor-led for new and returning, and then we also have the self-guided approach. With the self-guided approach, we have a link to a page that says, click here to view a customer instruction sheet. And the reason we have this is that we have some cases where we might have a person that's off-site. You can send them this page. You can go ahead and put in your contact information, customize it with your contact information, and it gives the basic points that you're going to complete a pre-assessment, you're going to complete the activities, you're going to complete the post-assessment. So it's the basic steps, plus you can add your contact information. Okay, once they have completed their activities, they're getting towards the end of their work experience, then they can complete the post-assessment. And this information was available, the pre- and post-assessments were available up in the other instructions as well. So again, it's multiple ways to find the same information. This specifically for the post-assessment, we have it as the it says new SYEP participant pre- and post-assessment with answers, and then we also have them without answers. So in this, what we call an accordion, you have the pre- and post-assessment for new and for returning participants. And if I didn't mention before, the pre-assessment and the post-assessment are the exact same questions. So you'll be able to see the difference in the pre-assessment scores and their post-assessment. They should do better on their post-assessment than their pre-assessment. We have links to additional resources. We have videos. We'll also be adding additional videos for the new activities as well. But they can complete the activities without the videos. The videos are just to reinforce the information that's already available within the site. The activities will be available next week. So once those are available, then we'll provide those links to those activities. And then we also have this is available in multiple places on this page as well, but the alignment to the work readiness goals, that's available on the Workforce Professionals Pathway as well, and we have our forum. So I'm going to go ahead and let me click over to what a participant would see. So this is a link that I have for a demonstration today. this is what you're going to see, or your participants are going to see whenever they are logged into their account, and they might see, whether it's their new they're a new participant or returning. It's the same basic format. We have the icons. They'll take the pre-assessment. Once their pre-assessment is completed, then they will have access to the other activities and the post-assessment. Once they have completed an activity, the activity will turn green. But just because we can't assume that everybody would understand that green means that you're complete, we have the word complete right underneath that. If it's yellow, it's not complete. So I can either, let me go back real quick. I can either click on this information link and have an overview, a sentence overview of what the activity is about, and click here to access the activity, or I can just simply click on the icon. Once I go to the activity, it's 3 basic steps. Step 1, in this particular activity, it's a little bit different than the others. You're going to complete either the interest profiler or the skills profiler. Then your step 2 would be to complete the activity review. And then step 3 is check the box to let your instructor know that you've completed the activity and the review. So let's start out with step 1. So as I go into the activity, I can just simply follow the instructions. Okay. And then I have, depending on the activity, I have the different places where I can submit my answers. So I can just simply click into the box, type my answer, and save the results for later. Now, one of the things that we do have a little tip here, that if you click on the answer link, so for example, it says, what should you consider when you explore careers? I have in parentheses for the answer, click on the following link. So if I click on this link, then I will go to, it will open up in a new window. And this is based on feedback from the field, the participants from last year. A couple of the areas expressed that some of their students had trouble once they got to an activity and they were redirected to another page, even though it said take me back, they kind of got confused and lost and couldn't get back to the activities. What's nice about this is they can come in here, they can find the answer, they can click back onto their review, paste it into the answer, and save it. If I go down to my next question and click on the link, what it will do, it will open into the exact same window. So it's not as though they end up with 20 windows open. They can simply go to that window, copy, go back to my activity and paste, and then I can save my answers. So then once they save their answers and complete the activity, then they can check that they've completed the activity. I can navigate by either using the next or previous links. So whenever I do that, again, I can access the reviews. Once I complete that review, I can just go on to the next activity and so forth. And then if I want to, I can also click on checklist, and it'll take me back to my overall checklist. Okay. And this is the example of the great big stop sign that we tell them, do not use, do not do this. When this is released, it'll actually be positioned in front of the post-assessment. So that is your really quick overview of Illinois WorkNet, the new enhanced activities. Let me go back to my computer screen. And I'm going to open it up to anyone who has questions. I can go back through and look at the chat pods. If you have any other questions, please enter them in the chat. I'm going to open up the phone line. So if you would like to ask a question using the phone.
The floor mode is on. To request the floor, enter star, then pound.
Star, pound, and I'll be able to see it on my screen. And I can grant you access to the floor to ask a question over the phone. But again, please go ahead and use the chat if you have any questions. We do have several polling questions. I would ask that you complete the polling questions. Give you a moment to do that. For the first question, I'll just give a quick overview while we're waiting for any questions that might come in, is that the new and returning summer youth can be added to the same group. Okay, how long do you estimate that all the activities will take? Well, they were set up to be set within a 2-hour time period. If you take the 2-hour time period approach, it's really an introduction to the material and the resources that are available, just to try to get them thinking about what do I look for whenever I'm looking for exploring careers. What am I looking for whenever I am looking at training programs? For some of the new activities, it's like on money management, understanding a little bit more about money management. They're not actually going through and creating their own budget and doing a lot of that in-depth type of stuff. But just to kind of give them an overview of the tools that they can use to create a budget and the importance for saving, whether it's for retirement or for a car or house or whatever they want to do. You can definitely take it out longer than 2 hours. Yes. So, okay. That's a good question. So the other thing is, the next item that we have is the new and returning participants complete the same activities. Now, it's kind of a trick question because with the new participants complete the activities like we used last year, and the returning participants still have access to those activities, but really their focus is on a separate set of activities to build upon what they learned last year. So the pre and post assessment, their pre and post assessment are based on the activities for the second year for the returning. Again, I probably beat it into the ground that you need to have your the Social Security number in order to make that connection with IWDS. We do have a couple ways for you to recover passwords. We can either use email, or the coordinator can look up your 3 pieces of information to help the participant. So again, if you haven't already answered the questions on what kind of approach you're planning on using, the self-guided or instructor-led or both. And also, we really do want to hear back what do you think about the certificate of completion, is it important or not important to you? And what do you think about including the score on the certificate? If you feel really strongly one way or the other, or if you'd just like to share why you feel the way you do about the certificate or anything else, I guess, please make sure that you enter that into the chat pod, and that'll just help us. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions coming in from the phone line, and looks like we've taken care of the questions that are in the chat pod. So anyway, thank you very much. I do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to go over this information. And this will be available on Illinois WorkNet and the Workforce Professionals Pathway, just in case you need it for future reference once you jump in and get started with all this. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at info@illinoisworknet.com, or you can use the form that's available on the Summer Youth Employment Program page in the Workforce Professionals Pathway. So with that, thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you in the summer. Thank you.